Now, here's the fun part, all right? So we're going to now look at Yonatan Sompolinsky's his thoughts on proof of useful work. Proofs of useful work. And this is very different from useful proof of work. This is proofs of useful work. This is a new paper. Here's the paper. Take a look. Proofs of useful work from arbitrary matrix multiplication. So what this refers to is basically that the miners themselves can choose matrices freely. These matrices are used for AI inferences. So the miners themselves basically have the power, the full sovereignty to choose what they want to put the work for. This mitigates wastefulness of proof of work. And that significantly mitigates security budget draining threat down the line. By adding a funding source, the usefulness for mining. So proof of work, you know how it works with mining. You have these really hard computational algorithms that you try to solve. And once you solve it, there you go, you win and you mine a block. So it's those algorithms that are being solved, it can be seen as very wasteful. Well, in reality, it's securing the entire network. But still, it's a point to make that even possible criticism, especially easy for politicians to rally public opinion against wasteful proof of work from all the energy wastefulness from that. But in reality, it's the security that type of work provides. But proof of work that's able to integrate AI, matrix multiplication for AI. The criticism of that is, what if the wastefulness is essential for security? And that usefulness effectively funds attacks or removes attack costs. So is the traditional proof of work wastefulness actually the main benefit for the security? Well, Yonatan says there's a remedy that you can have a constant wasteful overhead that exists in proof of useful work. So there's always a little bit of wastefulness that is there guaranteeing basically a baseline security. But he does not believe it's actually required. It's not a real threat if you successfully penetrate a huge computation market with so many diverse players. The vast scale of this market, the AI industry, can arguably cover for model imperfections, which are inherent to this objective. So basically, if you're able to penetrate the industry, the AI industry, there's so much computation power that's being used there. And imagine all that computation power, bring that, for example, if it was Bitcoin, bring it into Bitcoin instead of Bitcoin miners just doing random algorithms, the random Bitcoin mining algorithm to mine a Bitcoin. What if you put that work into actually AI that needs to be done? AI takes so much energy. What if you just made it for securing Bitcoin hand in hand? Now you understand how this is an optimized model for integrating AI with crypto. You could see that, you could actually bring in the whole AI industry into, for example, Bitcoin. Bring them together. Or in this case, for example, Yonatan Sompolinsky, he's the founder of Caspa. He's mentioned before in podcasts that he'd be very interested to see integrated with Kaspa. He's honest. He says, hey, if something's out there that can absolutely improve the architecture of Kaspa, then he, and of course the other developers of Kaspa, would be very interested in integrating it. And this is just one of those examples, a rare example, that this still it's a new paper. Okay, it's still research. It's not yet implemented anywhere. So still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of research to be made, especially, for example, an adaptation that needs to be fit for high blocks per second. This is something the paper does not go into, but it's there and it's possible. It's the theoretical research mindset. That's what makes Yonatan Sompolinsky so wise. He looks at it from a mathematical research perspective, looking at these fine details and how it fits within a broad ecosystem, a broad environment, long term. What is the most optimized way that a network can be run? So I'll have to go in a video just in depth about this proof of useful work because it's quite honestly astounding. And Yonatan goes into it, talking about that, yeah, it's going to be less CAPEX committing. Basically, you're not going to have like these ASIC machines. I mean, you're going to be able to still be using GPUs, for example, because, the AI, GPUs are still very worthwhile for running these AI models. But the two main arguments in this defense that a lot of different big companies that have a lot of GPUs, for example, they could dominate, for example, the hashing power, is that still there can be a wasteful component. This wasteful component could be something an ASIC, for example, can be specialized in solving this wasteful component. So then you can have these special machines that are required. It helps decentralize the distribution of emissions and rewards from mining, rather than being able to let the biggest industry players, the biggest, for example, AI data centers or whatever, these data centers that have so many GPUs, they won't be able to dominate the mining of such a crypto. So that's just one idea. But then the second idea he says here is that since the usefulness is tailored to the miner's needs, it choosing its own matrices more likely to bring in big players and achieve high hash rates. So literally he's saying the fact that it can bring in such big players and so many big players will in it of itself decentralize the hashing rate, the hashing concentration. So even if one of the biggest companies out there in the world have so many GPUs, they want to mine, they want to add a hashing power, they're going to be competing with a lot other big giant companies that have GPUs. So at the end of the day, you may be seeing something like, if it were for Kaspa, you'd be able to see something very quickly happen, like skyrocketing adoption of the mining, because there's so much utility added to mining. So now it's like, hey, you're already solving these AIs with heavy computation. Why not put that work to use and actually earn from it with another direct source of revenue from a crypto? Not just any crypto, but the most optimized crypto, a one that you are also giving and adding to the security of this crypto, whether it be Bitcoin, whether it be Kaspa. Is Yonatan here? He's the leading innovator of the entire space, one of the top 3 most highly cited Bitcoin researchers in the past decade plus. Yonaton Sompolinsky is the top of the research game in crypto because of his innovation and of his grand ideas and understanding of what optimization means for any crypto network. That's why you see Ethereum citing Yonaton Sompolinsky's work. Vitalik cited in the Ethereum white paper Yonaton Sompolinsky's earlier work. That's why you see most of the top crypto in the top 100 citing Yonaton Sompolinsky's work. This guy's a genius, and Satoshi Nakamoto is great, but Yonaton Sompolinsky is even greater because he doesn't just stop at Bitcoin. It keeps going, keeps innovating. So Yonaton Sompolinsky is honestly the continuance of innovation of what Satoshi Nakamoto started. Whether it's the same person or not, that's a different story. As he says, he's a real imposter, okay? He has the same hecking birthday as Satoshi Nakamoto. And he said, randomly, replying to a comment, hey, where's Satoshi Nakamoto's money? Why doesn't he just unlock it? Why doesn't he just move it somewhere? Yonaton Sompolinsky replied to that random tweet 2021 saying that he lost his private keys. He lost his keys. That's why he hasn't moved the money. That's why Satoshi Nakamoto, has not moved the 5% supply of Bitcoin, because he lost his hacking keys. That's just one crazy theory. There's so many theories out there. But if you actually are interested, look at this. Look up Christian Ludwig, sort by most liked, and that's going to show you everything you need here. He spent 3 years researching. He's 100% convinced, anonymous founder, who he is, and he gives everything. He gives nonstop, just constant crazy alpha and all this crazy intel of why everything points to Yonaton Sompolinsky. Okay, so it's really definitely worth a look. So now back on the topic, he thinks miner tailored usefulness is the main differentiator between proof of useful work paper and previous research papers that are referred to as useful proof of work. So basically with useful proof of work, something like, Cubic is the worst example of it, but that is an example that tried implementing this, that they try to have a rubric mechanism that, okay, if we think that you're providing a certain thing within this rubric, then, okay, we consider that useful, and there we go. That's how we consider it useful. The criteria for something being useful, it limits. And here he explains that there's a limit to how much hardware and computation can improve a single product or model, whereas no practical limit to a client request for matrix multiplication. He's basically saying that matrix multiplication is an input that is almost infinite. There is no limit to how much requests for matrix multiplication for AI models out there in the current industry, and it's only going to grow exponentially. There's no limit to that matrix multiplication. But when you have a model that's like, oh, if we think within a certain box of a certain rubric that this is being a useful element within a certain AI model, then okay, we'll consider it useful. That's a very limiting, and Yonaton Sompolinsky understands a limiting factor of that. And here he says, even explaining like a miner can choose exactly how they want to have their matrix multiplication. It's like they're going to be choosing the matrix multiplication that gives them the advantage. If they choose one that's very easy to do, it gives them it provides no value, no usefulness to the miner itself. So why would they do that and waste resources when they could actually gain resources in revenue by having real matrix multiplication that provides them value, by computing a matrix that provides them real value. So the incentives of this model that Yonaton Sompolinsky is explaining here, the incentives match and they align perfectly with the real world global adoption of AI, unlike Bittensor's architecture incentives. I'm going to go in depth again here. So tau is actually weaker than either useful proof of work or proof of useful work. The both models, and proof of useful work is the most useful, is the best model. But tau is weaker than both on the security dimension. So here's the critical point. In Bitcoin proof of work, proof of useful work, and even useful proof of work models or proposals, the work itself is the consensus mechanism. In Bittensor, the useful AI work has nothing to do with chain security. So here we go talking about the architecture and the security of it. The chain runs on proof of authority nodes. The AI work just determines who gets token emissions. These are completely decoupled. So tau isn't really a proof of work blockchain at all in the cryptographic sense. It's better described as a token incentive layer on top of a proof of authority chain that rewards AI labor. So tau lacks proof of useful work key property entirely. The proof of useful work paper's core insight is that the miner can choose the matrices freely. Matrices used for its own AI inference, meaning a miner running commercial inference jobs for clients can simultaneously generate valid proof of work certificates from the same computation. So they are basically continuing their work in the real world, providing clients with AI matrix multiplication, and they're able to get this valid proof of work certificate, being able to earn from their real world work. Doing so, it pairs the incentives with securing this blockchain and empowering their AI. So these AI and blockchain are now intertwined. This is the most optimized version. This is the most optimized architecture. This is what Caspa was looking for long term. This is where the future is. So Bittensor has no such a mechanism. Bittensor miner cannot take an inference job that they're already running for paying a customer and double count it as subnet work. It doesn't work like that. So it doesn't make any sense that Bittensor, they can't scale with what's existing out there, with the existing AI infrastructure that's out there in the real world. They don't scale hand in hand with it. It's impossible. Architecture just doesn't match. It doesn't pair. Incentives are just not aligned. The subnet validator sends specific challenge queries that the miner must respond to on the subnet terms, not the miners. Okay, so this is basically looking very long term, very big picture of what tau in its architecture, even looking apart from proof of authority, okay, the whole problem of the centralization, even looking past that, looking out now at the architecture of how it rewards AI miners that are providing work for a certain subnet, subnet that has a specific rubric for grading the miner's work. Okay, this is just a model that it doesn't play well with existing industry architecture and existing AI industry infrastructure. It doesn't pair well with it at all. Unlike Yonaton's vision for proofs of useful work, a vision he has for Caspa long term. The fundamental tension Yonaton identifies is that Yonaton's core point about useful proof of work's weaknesses is exactly Bittensor's weakness. Commitment to one specific computation has a natural ceiling. So each subnet can only incentivize one type of AI work. Validator's ability to evaluate quality caps out. There's only so much demand for any single subnet specific output. Proof of useful work, however, sidesteps this entirely because MATMULs, which is basically the matrix multiplication, are the primary bottleneck of AI training and inference in the real world, where giant matmuls matrix multiplication is as large as 40K by 40K in LLMs are required for both forward and backward propagation. So the useful computation taps into essentially unbounded commercial demand, not a fixed task. This is wild, man. All right, wild. This is the vision. Yonaton has that vision. You have to be aligned with what's long-term vision for what's possible. What's the most optimized way you can integrate AI with crypto? Guess what? That's the path Kaspa is taking. As the most optimized L1, it's going to be also optimizing its way to be integrated with AI. That's something that I am investing in with Kaspa. Okay. Right now, if you're buying and holding Tau, you're not investing in this future. You're not investing in this path. You're investing in a path that has a ceiling, a natural ceiling, a path that is very corrupted by centralization, a path that is built on a foundation that is not innovation. You're built on a foundation off of like a WordPress framework of a website, a WordPress framework for a blockchain. If you don't know WordPress, maybe you know Squarespace or even Shopify. They have their own ways to make websites. Like it's just it's a constrained way of building something. And when you build something off of the traditional method, the traditional ways, it's impossible to innovate. So here Kaspa is pushing the boundaries, quite literally reinventing what's possible for proof of work, what's possible not just for proof of work, but for crypto, having a scalability more scalable than proof of stake systems and on track to be more scalable than even Visa and traditional banking infrastructures, centralized infrastructures. So Kaspa's pushing the boundaries, and that's doing so not because it's using a pre-created framework of the traditional way. No, it's literally building the way forward off of a decade of research and work. It's not taking the quick and easy path for, especially for integrating AI down the road. No, it's building from the foundation up. From this foundation, Kaspa is able to do anything. That includes going forward with AI hand in hand. Here we go. Yonaton is envisioning the most optimized version is proof of useful work, where miners can choose the matrix multiplications themselves. But here, Tau more so represents useful proof of work, the other one, the more traditional previous research. This one in spirit, because it's both, but it's weaker in both security and flexibility. It's like a useful proof of work because it has network-defined tasks, fixed public goods per subnet. It's unlike proof of useful work because miners don't choose their own computation. It's unlike both of them because the useful work is architecturally disconnected from chain security. And also, it's not even cryptographically provable. It's not cryptographically provable. It's it's a trust me, bro. I ran the math, I followed the rubric, and these numbers are correct. If you have to trust, I don't call it crypto. I don't call it decentralized whatsoever. So Tau is more so like an incentive layer, not a consensus mechanism. So the useful work is more so like an incentive layer, not a consensus mechanism. The DTAL upgrade, which is basically the subnet alpha tokens I was referring to with the automated market making, basically representing little liquidity pools within every single subnet. That makes the system even more market driven in which subnets get funded, but it doesn't change the fundamental structure of how individual miners compute. And unfortunately, it just introduces a whole nother problem of MEV attacks within hundreds of little tiny liquidity pools. So this is just, maybe they had good intention here of trying to get subnets more market driven, but it introduced a whole nother problem. So again, when looking at optimization, Bittensor Tau is not it. So if the proof of useful work papers L1 blockchain ever ships, it would be genuinely different and arguably stronger design than Bittensor. Miners would be securing the chain and running commercial AI inference simultaneously with cryptographic proofs binding both together, rather than Tao's softer subjective scoring system on top of a centralized chain. That sums it perfectly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. This is it. This last sentence is exactly this whole summation of the AI and what's looking forward. And that's why Yonatan Sompolinsky really does understand what's the solution, what's the way forward, what is the most optimized way that Caspa can integrate the future. So even comparing Bitcoin and Tau and proof of useful work paper that Yonatan refers to, is their work useful? Bitcoin, no. Others, yes. Is scoring objective? Bitcoin's not even related. Tau with the AI models, yeah, often it's objective. Yeah, you could say so. All right. Often, you could trust the validators to be running the math, running the rubric in an objective scoring way. And proof of useful work, yes, it's absolutely mathematical and cryptographic. So is scoring cryptographically verifiable? Tau, absolutely not. It's not. Their system is not cryptographically verifiable, while proof of useful work absolutely is cryptographically verifiable. And with a proof of work certificate that goes hand in hand with the work done, this is, again, how it can hand in hand be done in a global adoption way. Does work secure the chain? Bitcoin, yes, there has to be work. Tau, no, the security is not there. Proof of useful work, yes, the security is there. So can evaluators cheat? Bitcoin, no. Tau, yes, if colluding majority. So that refers to if the largest stakers within Tau decide to collude, they decide to have a mischievous and devious plot to decide certain things in dishonest ways because they have the full control. When they have that staking power, they have so much money, they have the majority control. And that's where these validators can be very dangerous, especially on the L1 when there's just so few of them from the Open Tensor Foundation. So the proof of useful work, no, there's no cheating. Can't cheat. It's not possible. So there we go. That's the summary. That's a summation of Bittensor Tau. My thoughts on Bittensor and everything about it, the architecture going forward, the future, what it means, what could it do. My whole suggestion is to get Bittensor on the L1 of Caspa. Get it on the most optimized layer 1. And then you could build the whole system, the layer 2, in a way that's more aligned with the work of this paper, the proof of useful work. Make your whole layer 2 system around this. That's honestly the way to go. Otherwise, make your own L1 based on this whole system. And that's something that Caspa already has the lead with, has the researchers, has the developers, already has the most optimized L1. And they're going to go after Dagnite is released, vProgs, and all these major developments are released. This is Yonatan, he mentioned in a podcast, this is the work that he wants to pursue going forward. He says it's the most interesting, that could be providing the most value for Caspa as well. So Caspa is already on track, is already on the path for this. Bittensor is going to have competition like it's never seen before when Caspa starts implementing this type of work, this type of useful work. This is a system that'll work. This is a system that can survive and that can be built for global AI adoption, so that could scale hand in hand, one for one with existing infrastructure out there. So that's the major difference. Major difference. So this whole thing here, and honestly, just a large hype train around AI. And sure, I feel it's a lot better than Cubic, for example. I've done a whole video on Cubic. And although Cubic is very, very bad, and even Bittensor's centralization is something I'd run far, far away from, it's still respectable for how far it's gone, all the attacks it's been through, everything it's been through, and how it's still up and running. It's very commendable how it is also continuing to grow. And even if, Grayscale, they want to create an ETF for Bittensor Tau. However, this ETF application has been pending since December 2025. And it's something I honestly don't see how it could be accepted when centralization, especially the governance centralization, is very highly scrutinized if there is centralization of governance in how of the actual blockchain. That's something that an ETF application can easily get denied and rejected for. So we'll see. We'll see if people care more so about pump price and price go up than they do about underlying architecture and actual adoption within the industry. Or we'll see, if Bittensor wants to continue having a run and continue to develop and upgrade. Eventually, Caspa is going to be coming out with its own AI integration with existing infrastructure, existing infrastructure, and there's going to be some real competition. That's where the most optimized system is going to be taking the spotlight, and it's going to be winning. It's kind of like slow and steady wins the race. Bittensor got off the bat running for the AI model built on a substrate from Polkadot that's very unoptimized and has a lot of issues from centralization, from security. They got off the bat running. They wanted to focus on AI, and that's what they did. And their system, their architecture is very unoptimized, and there's a lot of issues with it, a lot of attack surfaces and large attack surfaces. However, Kaspa is taking the slow and steady route. It takes something very slow and steady to build something very fast and very optimized. Kaspa devs are building it the right way. They're building the most optimized L1 so that in the future they can be able to integrate, for example, proof of useful work and any other future work that can complement a data network, anything that's revolutionary, innovative, and optimized, that really paints the picture of what's the most optimized a network can get and how can it provide the most value in the real world. That's where Kaspa is looking long term, and that's what I personally am investing in. And I have no interest in investing in a blockchain in a layer one that's not caring to even be optimized. It's not caring for for a system that is built for the long-term adoption. I'm only looking long-term. I'm lucky because I'm young, so I have time on my hands, and that's what I'm using to my advantage. So that when I'm buying, I'm buying to hold. I'm buying to HODL, and I'm looking to maximize my exposure in the Caspa ecosystem. I mean, that's why, I love Caspa. That's number one. That's why I'm there also investing in Nacho the cat, because it's also like manner, a digital commodity, fair launch, run by supply and demand. There's not a centralization factor with the token itself. There's distribution of the token and the way the marketing and development is run as well. It's extremely decentralized. So it's not just about the token, but it's also about the ecosystem and everything that it's building. It's building with Caspa in mind. It's building an ecosystem that can complement Caspa, that can enhance the existing Caspa ecosystem. For example, building mining pool that offers the lowest fees, building bridging between different protocols, building even its own protocol for content publishing directly on the blockchain, directly on the Caspa L1. They're constantly building, constantly making partnerships with big builders in this space as well. And that's what's really powering and will power the adoption of Caspa. That's what I invest in. That's what I'm doing. I'm putting my whole effort in Caspa. And this is an embodiment of that effort. That's what I love doing. Deep down, I am a researcher. I look at and research everything, literally everything. And I want to make sure I find the truth. I find the most optimized. I find the best. And that's how I work. And that's how I invest as well. I look for the best, the most optimized. Because in the end, that's how you can maximize profit as an investment. This isn't just a stock or a company. This is money itself. This is a data network. The most optimized data network is going to be able to integrate not just anything, not just normal, traditional crypto things like DeFi. No. We're talking about being able to be an industry leader in privacy, in AI, in integrating existing technologies, existing infrastructures in the real world to be able to make these companies save major money while enhancing the security of their system. That's what I'm talking about. That's a real moneymaker. In a decade from now, that's what I'm looking for. Invest in the future and really understand what you're investing in. That's all the advice I have to give. So on that note, guys, peace out. If you don't have yet a cold wallet, I suggest getting Tangem. This is the hat I'm wearing. It's an excellent cold wallet. There's always deals going on. I've got promo codes in my I got links and promo codes in my description. Take a look if you want. It's truly what my favorite cold wallet for a lot of reasons. I made a video on it if you were interested in knowing the exact details of why I promote and suggest Tangem over any other cold wallet. I had the video on my channel. Take a look. Look up cold wallet on my channel and you'll find it. All right. Keep hodling. Stay safe out there and peace out.